from traditional models to a future where work is meaningful. Ms. Parija has been a dynamic people leader with over 2 decades of experience driving transformation across global technology and GCC organizations.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. And I particularly thank Mr. Banerjee, IIFT leadership, for inviting me for this session. You may have to excuse me that I may be using my phone sometimes in between because I was only told on Friday, so I haven't had much of time to prepare. But this topic is close to heart, so I don't think it'll take too much of too much in terms of being not able to talk about it. One thing which you will say that I don't know how your professors, and in fact, one of the professors did mention it. How do they manage to keep all of you engaged in class? I think that's the biggest challenge that we all have, right? We all are facing this as well. So he did ask us this question as to how to. So now the water has changed to coffee, by the way, sir. So it does change. They do come out of their desks, but
in our classroom we don't allow coffee.
Coffee. So when they come to workplaces, then they change it to coffee. So then the coffee machine becomes their new best friend, and when they come to into the workplace. Thank you. Because it's very difficult for me to stand at one place and talk. So I think with that I'll kind of talk about a few things. Saying that let's try to picture this. 2020. Okay, this decides not to work, I guess. So let's see. So Gen Zs, anybody who's born between 1996 to 2010, 2012, that's about what the Gen Z is. We were the generation before that. You were digital natives. Basically, what does that mean? That you were raised by millennials. You were raised by people who have seen climate anxiety. They have seen uncertainty in terms of the world. They've talked about social justice. So we are talking about those people, those parents that have raised the Gen Z, and they're the most diverse generation, by the way, in the human history. Zen Alpha, he also gave us a reason why he was rejecting that offer, and he said no to that offer. It was only because of alignment. So he believed that what the company is aligned towards, the culture, the working, he did not think he was aligned towards that culture, and that's what made him make a decision about it, saying that this is not the place that I want to see myself in, and hence employees are expecting adaptation. Yeah. So for decades, as HR managers, as HR leaders, business leaders, most of us thought that employees will adapt themselves to the organization. Gone are those days. It's about how we will adapt to the employees, to the generation that we are trying to hire. So it's very important to understand, will this company adapt to me, is what I'm looking for from my career or from my future goals that I have in place. So that is what is talking about. And then when we say that, when you look at this fact that I said 40% will move out in 2 years' time, it's not because there's no loyalty. And this is something as HR leaders we need to be very, very aware of. Because I remember when we heard about the Great Resignation at that point of during the last panel discussion. So when we came out of Great Resignation, and it was just after COVID when this had happened, I remember having this conversation. If a candidate stays with us, if an employee stays with us for 2 years, that's good enough. It was a paradigm shift from what I'm going to spend some time to talk about a few pillars of the new HR playbook. That's easy enough to understand, not too jargony. That's how I've tried to keep it. Purpose over paycheck. I think I just mentioned in my previous example, right? So why is it important for organizations to show that purpose for employees? So when we talk about purpose, what does my work contribute to the world? Do I really contribute to just the bottom line, or is there some difference that I'm making to the world that I'm being part of? Yeah. Do I belong here, not just as an employee, but as a human being? This is a very deep question that people are asking, and I have been sitting in interviews. I hear this question coming across to us. So if they don't feel that sense of belongingness as a person, we are not talking about what skill set you bring to the table. We are not talking about what value add you bring to the table. That will all come along with it. but as a person, what is it that you're bringing on? They're going to impact the society at large, the world around them, as well as adding value to themselves. That's what is important for them. So I'll tell you, I think last week or so. So I sent an email to one of my team members, and this was about a project that we wanted to do. And so we've been brainstorming and things like that. So I kind of put out widespread project report and saying that, okay, this is the problem statement, this is what you are expecting out of it and things like that. And it must have been a good 300, 400 word email, by the way. A very lengthy email, you can think about it, yeah, 300, 400 words. And all I got, and then I realized that after almost like half a day had gone by, that I realized I had not received a response on that email of mine, that long email. So I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't know where the email went, whether the person even read it or not, or it disappeared into his black box. Then I go back to check, he had sent a thumbs up sign on it. That is all that was there, by the way. Which meant that the person had read the email and had agreed to whatever was to be done. But that is all that the response was. Yeah, so that is what we're talking about when we say done as part of the project. So that is what it is. The communication is evolving. Yeah. So communication is not the same. If I was sent an email when I was probably at that point of time, I would have probably, framed out a big lengthy response as to how we should be doing it, what the project plan is, what is my timelines. It doesn't need all of that. So as HR leaders, it is important that we understand that and evolve along with it. The other thing which we have all seen, I think COVID has made it much more visible now, is about flexibility. Yeah, we know that as organization there is a certain struggle most organizations are going through, including ours as well, in terms of where do we draw a balance between work from home and work from office. There is a certain amount of value that we do add to the fact that when you work from office, then you collaborate, you brainstorm together, you put your ideas together and then come up with a better solution. That is, of course, happens there, but that does not mean that it has to be work from office all the time. If you see, that most organizations are now trying to do that balancing act of where do we do it. Is it, whether it is called the hybrid mode, whether it is called the flexibility that we give out, whatever be that system, it is about how do we draw that. This is part of life. I can't think of work life any other way. Yeah. And the results only work environment. This could be debated. The ROWE, that's the new terminology, which means the result-oriented work environment. Does it matter? Like, I think we had this conversation, we were having it while during the break time, talking about the fact that some of you stay awake maybe 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock until the night, and you still, manage to come to work and really deliver your best. You're able to, because you have that energy, yeah? So, that is the kind of levels that you're working at. And what does that mean? That work can be from anywhere, but so long as the work is getting delivered. That's what is mattering, yeah? So at the end of the day, the companies will have to evolve, have to make their policies such that we are able to, take into account what Gen Alpha wants, what Gen Z wants, and that's how the policies will have to be reframed. Policies cannot be that they were made some 50 years ago and that's what we continue to do. They have to continue to evolve. Like when I'm talking managers, people who you may be reporting to or supervisors that you will be working with, maybe they are the people whom we need to train better to be able to have these conversations with you. Yeah. So mental health, it could mean that maybe there are normalizing the mental health days. Previously, as they said, previous panel was again talking about it, and I think they mentioned about the fact that Agra bhej do, udhar bhej do, we would not talk about it, but we have now, organizations have what is called the Employment Assistance Programs, which is EAPs, which means that it is okay to go and talk about it. Yeah, I think I was having a conversation with Anisha a little while back, saying that maybe there'll be days when I want to take a sabbatical because I need it, not because I have a reason for taking it. Yeah, it could be as simple as the fact that I need my time, and that's the reason I need to take a few days off, maybe a month off, depends on what my daughter was talking to me about. But the Gen Alpha has not seen that time, by the way. They don't know the time when the TV program would be running and they know that they can just pause it and then come back to it maybe 30 minutes later. But Gen Z has seen that evolve. So you're learning, which is what you do as part of your organizations, have to be reimagined. So that's something which I call as one of the pillars for HR Playbook. Yeah, they have to be made out in a method. Maybe Netflix is the way. That's what you understand best. Maybe in bite-sized modes. We have, there were times when we used to do orientations like 3 days, 5 days a week, 5 days in a week that we used to do orientation programs. Now we have come down to, we first came down to how back used to be a one-way traffic when we started, at least. I'm talking about maybe 20 years ago. It went on to become a two-way traffic, but it was still a very formal affair. In the sense that you sit down in a room, you kind of get prepared for a feedback session and then do it. Now it's feedback on the go. You can't have, you can't decide, okay fine, I'm going to sit down here and give a feedback, and it has to be two-way traffic. When we sit down, like when I sit down with my team, and my team has comprised of, some of your people, some of people from your generation as well, I say I am willing to and ready to listen to feedback, and that's what even the person has to be ready to take the feedback in, yeah, but it has to be a two-way process. Yeah, so I'll tell you a first small story here, saying that I think it happened some time back, and there was this fresher in one of our meetings, one of the business one of the freshers from out of an engineering college, and so we were talking about certain thing, and then I think we said the chair of the meeting said, okay, let's circle back, and then. When we were, when we had the break, this person walks up to us, me and the business leader were standing together. He says, when you say let's circle back, it almost sounds like a stalling mechanism. Why can't you just tell us why can't we just decide in the room, okay, this is what the next steps are, and just go on and do it. We need action to be done. Why do you want to circle back on the same thing? You've done a meeting, you've decided what needs to be done, just get it done. That's about what the action is. Yeah, so that's what we're talking about feedback, and it was nice to hear that feedback, honestly. So when I talk about that example, there are two things that I'm talking about. It's a two-way traffic, feedback, and it's a reverse mentoring. Anybody watch the movie Intern? The Intern? Yeah, I'm sure lots of you. Anybody who can tell me what was some of the takeaways from that movie? Maybe one or two. Anyone? Yes.
So like when he told Anne Hathaway that that was the office where he worked for 40 years. So Anne Hathaway was shocked that he worked in the same company for 40 years, and we are like people these days that are changing their companies in 2 to 3 years. Then of course there was generational gap, so some level of maturity, how to handle different emotions are also different in the current generation versus that in the Robert De Niro's generation. So
wonderful. Thank you so much for putting that out. Any thoughts maybe? I want a little bit of more participation, so it'll help us to understand if all of you are still in the room.
So I believe that DEY, while it is based upon gender and other aspects, which we generally have been, the society has been implementing it should be more about even ideas as well. So for example, some people are more open-minded, and some people are, for example, are more rigid. Some people are conservative and some people are liberal. Not in terms of just political sense as well. In terms of the working culture in which they are. Some people like to do work silently, some people like to post about it. Some people are entertaining, some people do their work just go off in the own way. Both of them work. As a developer myself in Japan, both of them you need that combination of it, except that the companies don't look into that. They, at least from what I know, at least in the prior context of which I work, their organization uses just different race, different cultures, and different the gender and that parity which they are trying to implement. But I believe these intangible aspects, which I don't know, you can get through psychometric test, I don't know what to work, but if you are able to get that, that is something I would say is actual diversity of a human being.
Absolutely, thank you so much. That is the ask from all of you, saying that it has to be a way of life. Looking at diverse hiring panels, understanding how our job descriptions are written. How is it written in a manner which sounds inclusive to everyone on the ground, yeah? That is what we are talking about, and that's what we have heard from Gen Z, saying that people who are coming and working with us, and what is the expectation from all of you. That is the reason why we went through this change. I think I mentioned this, saying that, when you're changing jobs, what we used to call as job hoppers are not job hoppers, but experience collectors. And this word was not mine, by the way. I got it from one of the exit interviews that I was doing for one of our fresh candidates, and he gave me this sentence, saying that when I'm moving a job, I'm actually looking at a different kind of experience. I have enjoyed it here. I have enjoyed my time here for 2 years that I've worked here. I've learned quite a bit. I came out of college fresh, not having enough information, not having enough knowledge as to how I can make myself useful. But I've learned that, I have understood that. But now it's time for me to look at a different experience. And why not? And as organizations, we will say all the best. And his statement, and her statement was that maybe in 2 years' time, maybe in 4 years' time, I may want to come back to this place again. Because I love this place. The values aligned with me, the kind of work that is being done is aligned to me. It's just I want to have a different kind of a feeling at this point of time. I think that's what we call it as experience collectors. And when you're collecting experiences, when you're making, being part of new organizations and having new experiences, you're also growing. You're adding value to yourself. Isn't that what you need at the end of the day? So, when you talk about onboarding these days, there are many companies which start onboarding not when you start with the company. They started almost like 3 months before. There are organizations which are doing gamification of their onboarding. So again, I'll take a step back and talk about a time when, maybe I was like 7 years, 8 years into my work experience. Email ID creation used to take like 6 to 9 days. Imagine so in this process, what I say, the career path has been reimagined. I think we heard it in the last panel also. It's not linear career paths anymore. It's not just about upward movement also. It's a combination. You could be doing, like today what we are talking about, the fact that AI is going to take away our jobs. Is it going to take away all our jobs? It's probably going to remove some of the jobs. But then it's going to augment the rest of the jobs, right? If you are not there to give it the prompt, then what is it going to do at the end of the day? So it will remove maybe the mundane jobs, maybe the admin jobs. That was not needed by an individual person. But that particular person will go on to do something more value added by the help of this AI that we are having. So that is why we call it that the career paths have to be reimagined, have to be, understood in the context in which you are coming out. So by the time you pass out, maybe in the next year, 2026, 27, it will be a different world in some form or the other. But you have to be adaptable. You have to keep yourself agile and adaptable to be able to make your mark in this world, in that workplace. Yeah. Now, how do we make sure that we are getting ready for Zen Alpha? I think you'll have to get ready for the Zen Alpha more than us, because soon enough, I think they are going to be hitting the workplaces. Yeah. There are good and bad of it, of course. I am standing on this one, and I'm not going to say that it's all rosy. There are times that we wish there's a little more, passion on that part. But having said that, I think we are all also evolving along with it. So that's the important part of it. So as HR leaders, HR practitioners who are in this room, when we sit down, we need to make sure that we're listening, we're piloting, and we're scaling and evolving in the process. That will be the mantra to making sure that we change, and we change the workplaces to make sure that we make it a better place for you to come. Yeah. So I think as my closing reflection, and I would say that it's a different world. It's not I'll not use any other word, but I'll just say it's a different world. Each one of us, when we were coming out, we also had we had our set of predicaments. Yeah, so it was not that it has always been a very rosy world and suddenly the world has become very different. It always comes with its own.
Okay, quick questions. You started with Gen Z and all the adaptability thing regarding that. So often we see that nowadays hiring process is AI assisted. Tasks like resume, shortlisting, assessment tests, these are AI assisted, and often these AI models are fed with historical data. So there might be a generation gap between the data fed and the people we are going to hire. So how do the organizations take care if any kind of bias creeps in the model?
Okay, and that's what AI is going to be doing. Yes, it has historical data, but it also has a job description that we are feeding it in. And the job description is something that is an active document. It's not something which was built like 5 years ago and we are continuing data. So that's where we are trying to reduce the biases and remove it. And every company will have their own set of job description. It's not a one size fits all, like Amazon makes one and the entire world follows it. It doesn't work like that, right? Because my requirements are going to be very different from my Amazon, and Amazon's requirements are going to be very different from an
evolution of company policies. So earlier Indian employees were told to build American skill sets. So in the recent light of the US restructuring, do you foresee any strategic redirection in global upskilling and programs? How are the companies reevaluating their internal policies?
I think it's, upskilling is here to stay. It's moving into manufacturing. So it is not about staying. So, which means that upskilling and reskilling is going to be something which has to be part of it. And honestly, with all this restructuring or whatever news that you're hearing, it's not just a US problem. It is something which is hitting, ready to be upskilling yourself, you will lose the bus. Yeah, that's the key of it. Saying that, today you realize that you're probably sitting in a classroom and doing your learnings. Maybe alongside it, look at what other places that you can do your learning. Maybe YouTube. YouTube is a great place to have.
DEI initiatives have been facing a lot of backlash.
Yeah.
Companies have rolled back, but DEI is here to stay.
Yeah.
So how do you see it evolving in a post-truck world?
I think it's a great question. Immediate reaction from a lot of companies was saying that, about gender, if you remove it, saying that may the best person win. It doesn't have to be a male or a female, and we are not doing a favor to a female by saying that, okay, we are going to hire this person. It's a may the best person win.
In a chance for redemption. So do you think that there are better ways that should be implemented when we look at shortlisting criteria?
Even through the entire session, we have been hearing that we need to learn, unlearn, and relearn. The cycle. Do you think that the change at which the AI is taking place, is advancing, do you think that the human capacity will match the pace in doing this cycle of learning, relearning, and unlearning?
Taking an example of ChatGPT, but I'm just saying ChatGPT is evolving because of what we are feeding it now. With the questions that we are asking, with the kind of data that they have access to and things like that. But at the end of the day, the data is coming out of us only.
Millennials, the Gen Zs and Alpha and whatnot. And as an organization, we also will be subjected to all these things. But still we are with the baby boomers mindsets.
Yeah.
Right? Because we are subjected to a lot of policies and other things. So what is your suggestion? What do we do? Because suppose if I am going to follow those kind of processes and all, and I am still going to insist on that, to suggestion for the educational institution like this, how do we adapt? Because still, like this girl was asking about the CGPA and those things. Right? I'm worried because I do understand that there is a need.